lot of campus to corporate programs, training young adults how to appear for interviews, how to dress themselves up.
Hello and welcome to Rashi Foundation. Someone who's a non-stop extrovert, a people's person who loves mingling and getting out to the world. Shwetha Pinto is a sociable soul, certified posh expert, soft skills trainer, facilitator, and a change agent. Shwetha, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है.
Thank you very much, Rashi.
Okay, to start with, Shwetha, can you share a bit about your journey, brand Shwetha Pinto, and how you became involved in such a diverse range of roles? Over to you.
Let me take you to an instance, in my early teens, I'd say. So, a little background about me. I come from a very conservative South Indian Catholic family from a place called Mangalore. But my parents were settled in Goa, ever since they were married. So I was raised in Goa, of course, with very much Mangalorean roots. So I was probably this dream child, people say, who was good at everything and was expected to be meritorious at a lot of things. So great at studies, great at art. I'm a trained Bharatanatyam dancer from the age of 3, so good at dance. Anything that involved group activities in school. So I was good at almost everything. Pick up mathematics, languages, handwriting. So teacher's pet, that kind of an ideal child. But I come from a non-English speaking background, and I was the one who went to an English medium school, a convent educated girl. So a lot would happen in terms of participation, but that would be a lot of group participation in school. Having said that, I never did anything on stage solo because my only wish and desire as a kid was to be invisible. So if anybody's watched Mr. India as a movie, they'd know my sentiments when I say, I want to be Mr. India, put on something and just disappear. So that was my thing. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be heard, a low self-esteem, always so scared to talk to people. And then came a time when I moved to class 8 and one of the teachers felt, Arey, this girl is very good at, almost everything. She's tried her hand at almost everything. Never done elocution. Despite doing theater and narration in the background, I've never been on stage alone. So this teacher felt, oh, we must put her in elocution. Then came the day when I actually went on stage in another school in front of all my other counterparts with other students, etc. And it was my first ever encounter walking up on stage all by myself. And when I did that, I was, of course, very nervous. My first instinct was I want to run away, but I still went ahead and I stood there, and I had trembling knees. I started my speech. I was very scared about how people are looking at me and being stared at, but I somehow started my speech, and all I remember is I spoke about the title of my speech. I told them my name. I told them what school I was from, and maybe the first sentence, and I went blank on stage and I forgot my speech. And at that very moment, everything that could go wrong in a 13-year-old's mind or in the world, that went wrong for me. I felt I was hit by an earthquake because my hands were trembling, my cheeks were shivering. I tried pulling out the paper from my pocket and reading my speech because I was so embarrassed. And at that moment, I felt I had a very Tare Zameen Par moment where, like Ishan, everything on my paper was dancing. And I don't know how long it was, but must have been 30-40 seconds. And a teacher from the back said, if you're done, you can go. And I ran for my life. So with that instance, I think I should have sworn on my life that I'm never going to go up on stage ever to speak to a large group of audience. So that was me at 13, an aspiring neurosurgeon But I don't know what changed when I moved to class 10. Everybody was talking about wanting to be a doctor or an engineer, somebody in law. And I was like, okay, everybody wants to be this, but who's helping people? You know? And of course, being a doctor, also the intent was a noble profession and wanting to help people. But then a teacher one day told me there was someone who came for a talk to us as young adults, and they said, no knowledge in the world is good enough to define you if you are never going to put it in actions. And that was so profound. I was like, okay, I'm right, I'm this, I'm all of it. But if I'm not going to put it to use and reach out to people, how am I going to make a difference? And that's when the whole world of HR and management was introduced to me. And I said, hey, this is nice. Human resources. I'm good with people. I can't do large audiences. So I can work with small groups. I was very influential with smaller groups, etc. So I said, okay, I'll do that. And when I joined HR, I realized training and development is a field where I can work closely with people and bring about a change. And I said, let me pursue that. Unfortunately, I didn't know that training and development also meant I have to be out there and talk to people every day, which meant I had to overcome my fears every day. And I said, okay, there's no looking back. I mean, I've got nothing to lose. I've been embarrassed once, I can be embarrassed even more. So, 3 years of my training and facilitation journey, I did a bachelor's program in training and facilitation, one of its only kind in the country then. 3 years, they grilled us only to stand up and talk with absolutely no audiovisual aid. So from storytelling to engaging the audience, using your body language to talk to people, I did all of it. And in English and Hindi, because those were my majors, I trained myself, and I put myself out there to participate in intercollegiate competitions. And since then, there's been no looking back. So I'm still nervous like I was when I was 13, but I still might tell myself, if it didn't kill me then, nothing's gonna kill me today. So I still go ahead and do it and learn from it every day. So that's a little bit about me, Rashi.
I love this, being Mr. India. I wish I can also do that. This is absolutely cute and amazing. Wonderful, Shweta. Okay, Shweta, you are a soft skills trainer. So, which soft skills do you believe are most crucial for personal development for a professional? Over to you.
I wouldn't differentiate soft skills for a professional person and someone in their personal lives, because soft skills, I think, is what um, outlines you as a person, and that has you considered for jobs, for relationships, for interactions, right? That's more of your value out there with people, because at the end of the day, you're working with people. And if you ask me, the most important would be a few. One is being empathetic, empathetic listening. For me, that tops the charts for me at any point of time. Listening to people, trying to understand their point of view, not just to feel for them or understand them, just to know what they are thinking. Understand their point of view. Knowing where they come from. That's definitely one. So when you say empathetic listening, it also means a lot of comprehension. We lay a lot of emphasis on people wanting to communicate. Oh, he's a great communicator, she's a great communicator. But it's not about talking, it's about comprehending what people are trying to say. For me, that I think defines communication in the true sense. Apart from these, wherever you go, I think the ability to initiate a conversation and hold a conversation, genuine interest in people, that definitely is something professionally and personally works.
This is amazing what you just said. Comprehending. Most of the people who are speaking or who are training don't want to know what others are understanding. They will do their job and they will just go, And I think this is wonderful what you've just put. And this shows that what a great trainer you are yourself, because you actually think from the other's point of view, what they are understanding. This is wonderful. And I'm sure you're an empath, because if you are talking about empathetic listening, then definitely you understand the concept. That's why you're speaking about this. This is wonderful, Shweta. Okay, Shweta, what are the different kind of workshops and services you're offering under your brand, Shwetha Pinto? Over to you.
As a trainer, teacher, and coach, my career spans, I mean, ever since I set foot in the industry, it spans about 16 plus years. As a professional. I mean, in addition, there were 3, 4 years where I was training to be a trainer as a student, but I did a lot of work. But in the last 16 odd years, I think what I have done and what I keep doing, one is teaching young adults. That's an area very close to my heart. I'm very passionate about training young adults who are in the final year degree, helping them add finesse to their personality. Because I recall that as a young teen, I didn't have that, and many of my counterparts didn't have that. And if I can help them, then why not? So teaching them areas of soft skills and etiquette, grooming them for the corporate world, because Google and YouTube can tell you a lot of things, but what actually happens is only comes from real experience, and I like doing that. So I do a lot of campus to corporate programs. I wouldn't put it in terms of pay, but whenever you ask me if I have the time and if I can, I will always say yes to a campus to corporate program, training young adults how to appear for interviews, how to dress themselves up, building those skills. So that's one. Secondly, I have moved from basic soft skills training to a lot of learning interventions for corporates. So in the corporates, I train first-time managers. I train mid-level managers, like managerial development programs, and I do a lot of leadership development programs, which involve a lot of founders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, etc. Now, in these development programs, the topics that I normally cover is, building trust, conflict to collaboration. So these are learning interventions. They are not just 1 day or 2 day workshops. They're 2, 3 months of journey where I help them put whatever we speak of into practice. And that happens with the third service that I provide, coaching. Because not everything happens in a classroom. There's so much that happens before and after. And that's when a coach comes in. So I sit with them, understand them, and each person in a classroom takes away different learnings. It cannot be the same that I want everyone to have, right? So understanding their perspective and being able to help them apply that or mold that learning to apply it into their personal and professional life. So that's a lot of executive coaching that I do. And apart from that, something that I have stepped into quite recently is doing a lot of storytelling workshops for people to make an impact. Because at the end of the day, facts only tell and stories sell. And another very favorite area of mine, which I think be leadership programs for women exclusively, because it's more about a self discovery to help women understand that they already have the potential. It's to bring it out in the foray and still being there. I think I bring a lot to the table of helping women to find their footing and do a lot more work with the potential they already have.
This is a great amount of work, campus to corporate, you know, and that is, I think, the foundation of anyone's career, when you're just out of college and heading towards job, and most of the students are lost at that time.
Yeah.
This is wonderful. Okay, Shweta, can you share a notable success story where you witnessed a significant transformation through your coaching and consulting efforts?
All right. There would be many, Rashi, because just campus to corporate, I think I've trained over 5,000 students in my entire span. And every student journey has been special for me. If I could put it in a nutshell, a couple of things like I've dealt with youngsters, 18, 19 is a very raw age. When I was in the teaching profession, also briefly, I was more responsible about the character and attitude development of a student when the parents invest 3 years of their time with us. And there have been students, particularly with a lot of substance abuse at that time, prey to substance abuse. And there have been kids who've had difficulties with their own families, rebel mindset and rebel attitude. And I recall all they needed was a little conversation. They didn't want to be policed or they did not want to be reprimanded. All they needed is to have a conversation. And I think I'm very blessed and fortunate that in the student fraternity till date, I've stopped actively teaching for the last 10 years. In a full time position, I've not taught. A remarkable instance I know of, as part time, I was doing soft skills training for a group of students of a particular college. And there was one child who was from Uttar Pradesh. Of our country, and the parents' only child, only son, and had a lot of aspirations. The parents wanted him to do well. Unfortunately, they came from the farming community, so they did not have access to what the world looks like, and let alone being spoken to in English. So the child went through English medium schools in the state, but was not able to speak in English. And when he came to a different state, then he was bullied, he was dragged, but the boy didn't have any fear to come put himself out there. But within himself, he was going through a lot of trauma. So he one day just asked me, ma'am, will you be able to help me with improving my English? I want to go to Canada to study. I said, okay. All right. I said, who's there in Canada? I have someone who can help me, but I need to get an entry. I said, okay. All right. And all we did was every time we had class, we would sit together. He would do some work. I would edit it. I would tell him. Not really, I was not an English teacher, but I would help him and what he could do. And we would have conversations. And he passed out that year. And 2 years later, he gives me a call from Canada. And he says, ma'am, do you recognize me? And his English was so beautiful. I mean, I would never guess. And he said, ma'am, I finally made it to Canada. And all thanks to you. I said, no, it's absolutely your effort. He said, no, ma'am, you said that even if it takes me extra time, I must invest in myself because this is my journey. I cannot compare it with anyone because his fear was everyone will finish and start studying and he will be left behind. And I told him it's okay. And he said, now I'm doing, ma'am, in Canada, and I got myself a seat. I wrote my own essay for my admissions. I prepared myself for the interviews. And every time I did it, I thought of you. I could have called you and asked you for help, but you told me to believe in myself, and I'm here today. And till date, now it's over 7 years now. The boy is in touch. He's in a great position. So that's one story that's very close to my heart.
And I want to tell my listeners that today is 5th September, Teachers' Day, and I think she's put across a great story and a great experience for all the teachers out there. This is wonderful, Shwetha. Shwetha, you are a leadership consultant. So how do you guide organizations, to navigate and embrace the change?
That's an interesting question. So here again, I had a full-time stint with the corporate very late in life after I've been teaching, training for many years. So this was pre-COVID. I was associated with an organization, and before that, I would do a lot of organization, HR consulting, people management consulting for organizations. So when COVID happened, there was this organization that we were working with. They didn't know how to navigate change, and COVID was the toughest for all of us, right? We were ourselves battling our struggles as to what is going to happen to us, and let alone think of anyone else. It's an organization. But in that journey, I think I was instrumental in helping the organization go completely remote from never having worked from home. Letting out the feelings of micromanagement of their employees to giving them freedom. So building trust. And also focusing on the fact that people will put in their best when you are doing your best for them, And through that intervention, it was difficult, it was bumpy, it was scary, all of that, but it is successful. And post COVID, the organization has scaled big time. I'm no longer a part of it. My journey ended with the change I had to bring, but the organization is doing well. They've never gone back to office, and they're probably clocking in many more hours of efficiency and productivity than they ever did when they were in office and, micromanaging or focusing on what people did. So, having said that, I think for organizations, whenever they're looking at change, the first thing an organization at the leadership level needs to understand that change is inevitable. We don't need a COVID to tell us that we need to change the way of working. We need to believe that we are all evolving on a day to day basis. We are people at the end of the day. And if our gadgets have updates every 1.5 months, we are people, right? We are also evolving. And why do we discount the fact that people are never going to change? People will always change, but the transition is slow. And that's where we build resilience in our teams. So, an organization will have to focus on the fact that yes, this is our rules and regulations, but it's not cut out in stone. We have the flexibility for exceptions. And with the diversity and inclusion and equity that we're talking about today, it speaks of nothing but change, adapting change, making space for change, even if you have no change in sight, making space for that change, bringing in perspectives. So, most important thing for organizations would be one, accepting that change is inevitable. Two, being prepared for change by investing in its people, not in its systems, because systems will change when people change. All right. And it's not the other way around, because if you're always dependent on when people change, you change the system, you're then breaking things and making it difficult for a lot others. You are going to focus on systems that are always going to be evolving because people are going to be evolving, and building resilience and having transparency all through the organization. That's the third point I'd say. Right from top down, making it clear why we are doing what we are doing, because if the why for an organization is clear, like Simon Sinek's golden circle, if the why of an organization is clear, adapting to change is a lot more easier because everybody is aligned to the why. If you're going to hold secrets and say, okay, this has to be done, people will always resist. It's like children, no? As parents, if I tell my child that do this, the child will say why. And if you say because I said so, the child is going to have some sort of rebellion as to no, tell me why I have to do it. I don't understand. But if you tell them the why, then you may have a buy in and say, okay, I understand this is not the best case scenario. So let me adapt to that. So change, I think, is easily maneuvered when the leadership team always is transparent to everyone in the organization, because without the people in lower segments of the hierarchy, you can never initiate a change and you can never overcome a change that has been imposed upon you. So I think that's what I'd say.
And I think change is constant and inevitable. That's what you said. And I think that's the fact. Okay, great. So, Shwetha, what is that gut feeling? What is that success mantra that you always had that this will work? Because I understand, like during our conversation, that you are a very, very kind person, a very soft-hearted person, and you think from your heart a lot. So, for people like you and me, who are most of the time doing emotional, I would say decisions are made through emotions. We are basically emotion-driven people. So, but never at loss, of course. So, what is the success mantra? Let's hear.
Never too late to be what you might have been. And with that, what I'm trying to say is all through my journey, Rashi, even till date, I didn't know if this is going to work for me. I'm figuring it out. But the thing that kept me going was I always kept upgrading my skills. Every year, I learned something. I'm a learner, and I keep saying if education were free in the world, you'd find me sitting in every classroom. That's who I am. And I'd learn, I'd repeat programs, and people would wonder how much are you studying and why. But I learning, I like learning, not because the topic is interesting, because I'd like to hear the perspective of the person who's talking about the topic. It just brings it, to you in a fresh light. So I did that. So I didn't know if I could figure it out then, but I did. I'm a complete noob when it comes to technology, but I know that you give me people, I can figure people out. So I said, okay, let me try this. I wasn't sure, but it worked. But every day, I think for me, it is okay, let me try this. You never know which new leaf unfolds with this journey, and I'm open to it.
Yeah, and many times in life, no plan is God's plan. And I think people who follow that, I think they reach heights. This is wonderful. Okay, so this is so nice, and the clarity is superb. You know that what most of the people who come on a show, they just speak about reaching to some height. You know, they want to, and this is what I love about you, Shweta, is that you have so much of clarity about the work that you want to do, which is wonderful. Okay, so I would like you to put across one special message to the brands and the communities out there.
So, my message to everyone would be no matter if you are a brand by yourself, if you are a professional working for someone, if you are an entrepreneur wanting to make a difference, and if you are a student who's, stepping onto that journey of self discovery, my urge to everyone would be bring your authentic selves out there. Be who you are, because if you are not going to respect yourself and your struggles, and you're all the time going to follow fake it till you make it, you won't know the difference between the fake and the real ever. It's nice to acknowledge who you really are, state it, accept it. Don't use it for as a measure of seeking sympathy or people's favors. It's more about accepting confidently that this is who I am.
I've never found myself cling to the show so much. And I don't know why I'm doing this today. Yeah, absolutely great and beautiful. This is lovely. Okay. So no matter what happens in your life, be good to people. Being good to people is a wonderful legacy you can actually leave behind. So stay true to yourself. Speak to Shwetha Pinto. She's giving away some amazing leadership workshops, great soft skill training programs. Get in touch with her. Her number, her details, her email ID is available on the promotion poster and on the video. Shweta, आपका बहुत बहुत थैंक्स है किया बाय